Well, look, before we go into the details of the slide, he did such a nice introduction of his own person, so let me do the same. He's an Afrikaans boy from the Platteland. I'm a German boy from the Vaterland. I wanted to play football professionally, also didn't make it. I ended up in the SAP world. So I suppose that's the punishment that comes with it. The other thing that I want to say, everything that he just said is true. He does all of this running. This morning, I had him for breakfast. Well, I saw him for breakfast. Didn't have him for breakfast. I blame this now on my, this not being my first language. He already run an hour and a half or something like this at 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever the time was. And then you would think, okay, but he's going to have breakfast. No. To optimize the burning of the calories and not to gain any weight, I'm not going to have breakfast. And I'm sitting there with my eggs and sausage and everything else and feel bad about this. All right, so before we go into the detail of some of the sort of applications and technologies that we sort of activate through the SAP solution set, you see there's a sentence on top there that talks about the fact that any type of project of this nature needs to be business-led. We can give business the greatest technology. If they don't know how to use it, then it will not actually help anyone. And maybe using this analogy of running again, I don't run, but I do steps, and I try to do my 10,000 because I'm going to get some points afterwards, like many other of you probably do as well. But only when I use this information actually in any sort of intelligent way, it's actually useful. Otherwise, it's really just a thing that's around my wrist, collecting some sort of a data. So that's why we're saying that business is so important in this. We also at EY, we believe that we should have teams that are bringing both together, the business view and the technology view, to really interrogate the business, what they want to get out of this in the end. So having said that, obviously, coming back to the topic, which is data, when we look at the four main components that you see here, that we sort of see within the logistics world, and let me just state this here, the supply chain, of course, is quite large, and the value chain is very large. So we're just looking here now on the distribution and logistics part of it. You've got the digital core in the middle, and then there's four big sort of themes and elements that make that up, which is your transportation management and the warehouse management, yard logistics, and then your logistics business network, which then also enables your global track and tracing of the goods that are being delivered. And what you can see then around all of those is this universe of data sources that can actually feed into that, right? So even though you've got SAP modules, they need to be fed by data, and ideally they'll be actually fed by data which is coming in in a completely automated way. So it could be IoT devices, it could be your vehicle insights that you can obtain from somewhere, RFID tags, whatever information actually you can get hands on. Even weather is actually relevant in the supply chain, right? Or hazardous situations, as sort of your mode of transport would have to maybe go through that. And these components can then also be implemented in a modular way. If one actually looks at a picture like this, you could actually get a bit overwhelmed and actually say, how am I going to do all of this in one sitting? You don't have to. SAP's approach to this is in a very modular way. So if you actually believe, or if the business, first of all, believes they have got a big issue on the transportation side, you're welcome to actually just activate the transportation management module as a first. Gain some confidence, maybe actually prove the business case, unlock some funding, improve the bottom line, and then take those savings and invest into the next component that would be of interest, and then maybe go into the warehouse. And once you've got the warehouse, you can do the yard logistics as well. And I think it's the right approach. I would like to think that if one has a conversation with a business, they should be able to actually say, where's my priority number one, and then do that one right. And then also think of all of the data sources that sit outside of the SAP core module, and think of the technologies that you want to start implementing. So this should actually not be, and I know I'm here in an SAP conference, but this should not be about implementing an SAP module. That should actually be the end-to-end solution, and that includes all of the other technologies that you want to invest in. And that then again needs a different skill also, right? I don't think you can have an SAP functional analyst or consultant suddenly then also become an RFID or a drone or whatever expert. So you got to think of the team very carefully. And I mean, needless to say, integration, because all of this data is coming in from somewhere. And a lot of the time you would want to have that real time, because you definitely want to actually see what's the situation out there. How's my modes of transport running at this point in time, and what do I expect in terms of delivery? Okay, so if we look at an example now, I'm doing it on the laptop. If we look at one of our examples here, so this is for a global retailer, and this is now specific to transportation management. So there were 4 on the previous slide. We're just going to go on to the transportation management. And they had, significant challenges around the delivery to the stores. They delivered the wrong stuff at the wrong time, in the wrong quantities, right? And that, of course, creates inefficiencies. It's very costly in the end. And you know, again, bringing it back to the data, and you can see those 4 sort of main components there at the bottom of that screenshots. They first of all actually wanted to know what are all of our constraints, what are our restrictions, all right? We heard earlier someone is eating 12,000 calories to be able to run for 2 days, but there's a restriction how much one can eat, I suppose, right? There's a human limit to that. This particular truck that I have, and typically you've got a fleet and they've all got different types and sizes and configurations. So important that one actually has got that on hand and fully understood, right? Then you've got your restrictions at the distribution center. What's the actual capacity within there? What's my picking capacity? In what operating hours actually? Is this a 24-hour distribution center? Is it an 8 hours? Is it 16 hours? So your time window basically becomes relevant for the activities that you have. The same then you've got at the stores, right? There's no point in rocking up at 9 p.m. I live in Hout Bay. At 9 p.m. in Hout Bay at the spa that closed an hour before. There's no one there to actually receive the delivery that you have provided. And also they also have got a storage capacity. Actually, I saw that the other day at that spa. They had a whole bunch of boxes still standing outside and they didn't know where to put it, but they just left it there. So they were hoping can sell it quickly so that it can move it back into the storage. And then there's any kind of general and legal constraints that you may have. And what was important here is that then you create real-time reporting along the transportation value chain for management, so they can actually see exactly where some of those violations occur. And of course, our first reaction is if someone has done something not right, that we're going to go and punish them. Okay, well, first of all, let's try and actually teach them, educate them, and ask them to do it right the next time. When they do it for the second time, we get a bit aggro. By the third time, we lose our patience. That's what I always say. We can make mistakes initially, but learn from them and get better. All right. So data. So just maybe covering the importance of that once again. Now I'm sort of going into warehouse management for a little bit, right? Where we've got 3 main big process groupings. So your inbound and your actual sort of internal to the warehouse processing, and then once it leaves the warehouse, your outbound. And then you can see that the relevant data objects and having that right. So some of it is actually just having accurate master data about your articles that you actually have as part of your storage. But then there's the dynamic data, right? The transactional part. You know, as deliveries come in, receipting that information, having that available in the system, having it available real time, then understand how things actually move in and move out. Very dynamic environment in some of those large warehouses. As things come in, sometimes within a few minutes or hours, some of those things actually go out again. And that, of course, then drives your inventory and your stock data that you have in the warehouse. And one does that by doing proper process mining. So there's a lot of analysis required to get this right. I repeat also, I think it's very important that one here works with the business and understand where they are at a particular time, and where they would need help, and how potentially technology can solve some of the issues that they have. Not everything actually has to be technology, right? We all know that sometimes it can also be a people matter, addressing that, and making sure that people in the warehouse actually doing the things in a more organized fashion, not necessarily the technology. And that the benefits then, of course, is, you know, that you want to reduce your cost, you want to reduce your lead time and be more efficient and transparent. I suppose that's obvious. That's what we're all after, by running an efficient supply chain. Okay, so that was our little adventure into the warehouse. And while we're in the warehouse, I want to just talk about one of those data sources that could come into play, right? What we've seen in other parts of the world is actually the use of drones. And in this particular example, what they do is they actually help with your inventory. So they sort of fly over through the warehouse, take the information, scan the information, and send it to your central system. From a technology point of view, because this is an SAP conference, the initial solution that we've built here was using the SAP cloud platform. You probably all know that in the meantime, this is all the business technology platform, BTP. I think there's a couple of tracks actually on that topic as well around BTP and how it integrates. And that's then how that information from that drone ends up in your EWM module and creates the insight for the business, right? It is more accurate, right? If we ask people to do it, so there's a chance that something can actually go wrong there. And of course, in the extremely fast way, it also, of course, depends on the number of drones that one would deploy in that. Okay, right. And I think with that, that's the excursion into sort of some of the examples and the technologies and applications that we see in use in the supply chain. We're right on time now, actually, for sort of any kind of questions and answers, if there are any. Yes. So we're going slightly off the supply chain, but I mean, ultimately, this is the capability that you're referring to is your master data governance and your master data management. And I repeat what I said earlier. Yes, there's applications out there. There's technologies. SAP has got an MDG product, but is that the answer to the problem? No, it isn't. What we believe actually is that you first of all actually have to create that as a big business change initiative, and then most importantly, create that ownership of the data, stewardship of the data, and create that whole structure on how you actually want to manage the data going forward. Once you have that, you can then decide to use an SAP MDG tool that sits sort of on top of that, right? And that would then be across. It would not only be for supply chain, it could actually be for your entire ERP systems landscape that you have, SAP and non-SAP solutions. That's actually very often master data needs to be managed across those. Yeah, yeah. Not uncommon, right, that happens because you're putting a technology on top of something that doesn't give you actually accurate data. What you can then report in, you can only report what you find, right? So you got to actually go back and do that analysis and actually find out where the issue reside. There are a couple of tools with that, right, to do that, and happy to actually have a more detailed conversation on that particular topic later if you would want to.
That's also the case in planning solutions. I think you mentioned ownership. That's probably the best solution to the bigger problem. Think about the planning solution. We mentioned IBP. There's multiple sources, and most of the times it's from your ERP and multiple other sources. And so there'll be a daily or whatever the fact is, reconciliation of those data that is correct or not. I think that's what makes some of these tools powerful, that they do automatically identify some discrepancies. So now if someone doesn't own that and continuously fixes that, people just slowly will become a problem, lose confidence in the tool and change management forward. I think ownership, and I've seen that a lot, especially some of our customers in South Africa, data mining. It's not South Africa, but what I've seen fundamentally in South Africa.
Data still to access, not access to went down the data.
Exactly.
So across the business.
That's true. And the other thing is also the mine of, when we, some of the bigger companies we've worked with, they actually have a supply chain data. So dedicated to solutions. It's a different type of issues there. It's master data, it's like movement, transaction data, the other types of data. So, yeah, I think the ones that, because the tools are very good at automatically picking up the errors, whether you're going to own, fix, maintain, and so forth. But there's a lot of solutions that now.
Yes.
In the previous slide, you showed supply chain landscape with PM and PWM. Have you evaluated integration with PWM but from IDM? Or the particular IDM model? The special IDM? Is it sort of the preferred integration between PM and PWM?
Yeah. I don't have use cases with IDM, so I would have to make it up now, which I won't. Okay. If there's no questions, then I believe our instruction is to tell everyone to find the time for a bathroom break, water, coffee, and then find your way to the next talk tracks. I know that those rooms get quite confusing, right?
Well, all those of you that have master data issues, tomorrow is because of online. Try to take over.
That's a very good advice. Did you all hear that? There's a talk track tomorrow. Please look in your agenda on the topic of master data. Thank you.